Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to this video on how to configure Unified Contact Center Express with basic call queues in Cisco Finesse. Now, I will say that this is a makeshift setup than the usual. I've got TV trays and everything else because last night I was gonna start making this video, and as I was typing and getting the computer set up, I felt something like on my finger, and there was an ant, and I felt something on my other finger. There was another ant. Shining the light down. My desk was covered with ants. Keyboard, computer. I mean, ants make me squeamish anyway. And whenever anything like that happens, and anytime you feel a little tickle or whatever, you think it's an ant or something, so you're smacking yourself. And I thought, you know, for this video, if I did it down there, I'd probably be smacking myself the whole video, whether there was an ant or not, which would make it more entertaining for sure. But I decided to bring some of the stuff upstairs so that I could do it with minimal self-humiliation, you know. So hopefully this will work. I've got my audio line feed test, so let's get going. For this example, I'm going to use the Freelab beta, and so I'm essentially just using my cable connection to my DSL connection, but that way, for those of you that don't have your own labs and are using the Freelab, gives you some additional ideas, and if you want to follow this video step by step, you can use the same equipment. I can just roll this back, and that's essentially what I did. If any of you saw the live stream the other day, I rolled back the changes we did in there so we can do a fresh run from start and proceed from there. So to begin, I am just going to sign into the VPN, and if you haven't done it before, you can load this up. Currently, the username password's listed right on the web page, and I haven't had a lot of people simultaneously going through making a lot of changes or needing certain objectives. A lot of people are just kind of browsing around, checking things out, and that's totally fine. But if it comes to a point where, you know, people are stepping on each other's toes, then I will remove the password and try to have it more scheduled. Now it's kind of first come, first serve. So I'll just log in here. And if you don't already have the AnyConnect client, you can click here. I actually do, but in this case it's still saying that it doesn't detect it, so it's going to have me download it. So in this case, I can actually just close this out. I won't actually need to use it. And if I launch the Cisco AnyConnect client, I can just put in the same URL there. And then I say connect anyway. Put username, password, and it's going to say untrusted. I will say connect anyway. And now we're connected on the VPN, and we can actually close this window out. Now from this point, we have two options, so I'm going to use both for this setup. And the first thing is you've got all the direct links here to the different cluster devices, username, password, and then there's also currently three remote desktop systems that we'll be using too. So just for the initial check, because there are different stages, we'll just do a quick verification, make sure we're ready to do the install, or not the install, but the initial configuration on Contact Center Express. So I'm going to go click on our publisher here. And sometimes the amount of time that it takes to load is longer than others, just depends what all is going on in your connection as well as the server load. All right, so now that we have our login prompt, we'll log in. And the main thing first is obviously, you know, what devices are they registered? And here we can see that there are some Jabber clients as well as IP communicator. These YouTube user A, B, and C are always going to be on the remote desktop sessions. YouTube user D is what I'm actually going to be using here, because just like how we're using a PC to directly connect to it without using remote desktop, keep in mind that, you know, if you have a cell phone, you can use Cisco Jabber on there, or you can, like on the PC here, you can run IP communicator directly and whatnot. In this case, sitting next to me is a Cisco DX650, which has AnyConnect built onto it because it's Android based. And so I'm going to configure a phone on here in a little bit to set up the VPN on there, so that I can make the test calls when we call in to the agents and whatnot that are on the remote desktops. Use my desk phone here for that. Point being is you could also do that with Jabber or something with a Android-based phone, or even iPhone or iPad or your desktop. The other thing for the installation, we need a UCCX user, and I do have that on LDAP. So if we go over to end user here and find, here we have the UCCX. So it is already in there, but if it's on if I do a rollback and it's not on there, all you have to do is go over to the LDAP directory here, click on find, and click on perform full sync now to pull down the user. And originally I created this UCCX user for Unity connection in and of itself. And one thing I didn't know until yesterday when I tried to set up this lab for the first time is the Cisco desktop agent no longer exists for version 11 and up. So you have to use Cisco Finesse. And so the first and only time I've ever used it was yesterday when I was setting up this lab. So, but it's not too bad. To that point, for UCCX, I'm going to add some additional privileges to be used for something else as we get there. So now on my local machine, I'm just going to pull up a remote desktop connection. And I did test this on one of them here. So I'm going to add a new one that I haven't logged into just so you can see what it's like. So if we do show options, we've got, let's see, if we go back over here. So I'm going to log into desktop number 2 here, which is the 102 address, and then the username Freelab-2, and I always choose the allow save credentials just because it's easier. For the display, I usually make it a little bit smaller than whatever my native resolution is. You can have it full screen if you want to, but you're usually toggling between different ones, so it's kind of nice just to have them a bit smaller. And then for remote audio, say play on this computer, that way you can hear what's happening. And the only being summoned. Let me pause the video real quick. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so now the only caveat is, let's say if you have IP communicator completely closed and you try to open it and it says no valid audio detector or detected found. What a workaround for that is to change this to play on remote computer, hit OK, log in, and then launch IP communicator. And once that's loaded, exit back out, and then switch back to play on this computer, sign back in with IP communicator already running, and then it works no problem. So I'm not sure why that is. It happens from time to time. So if you don't hear audio or it's closed and you can't launch it because it can't detect an audio driver, just do this procedure and that should clear that. So with that, I'll hit connect and put in the password, and I'll say don't ask me again and yes. Okay, and now that we're in here, if I load up Google Chrome, you can see I have most of the bookmarks already up here. And in this case, we're going to go to the UCCX console. Then we'll log in. All right, and so as you can see, I've rolled back from the last time we did the live stream. So we'll go ahead and put in our call manager information here, 192.168.202.211. And this Axel username, we're just going to use the admin that we have been using because it already has the Axel privileges. But as you may remember from if you've been watching the playlist, the previous videos where we were setting up Unity connection, we were using the Axel user to import the users. Well, this is going to be used for that, but then also it's going to configure the JTAPI users, the RMCM users, apply all the device associations and things like that. So we'll go ahead and use the same here. So now currently the license I have, I'm testing in my home production, so to speak, lab. So for this, on the DSL line, we're just going to use the 60-day that comes with it. So all we have to do is hit next. We don't actually have to upload it. So this will go ahead and generate the 60-day trial license and allow us to continue from there. Okay, and now that that's done, we will hit next. And it's going to go ahead and activate all the services. All right, now that they're activated, we will choose next. And next again. All right, so here's our Axel service providers, and we can go ahead and add the publishers as well. Already has the admin username that we specified earlier. Then for the CM telephony subsystem CTI managers, this is for all the JTAPI users. So we'll go ahead and add these. This is more for call control. This is what's going to go in and configure the route ports, the media ports and everything, route points I should say, and do all the device and user association. So for the user prefix, we could just use JTAPI for Java Telephony Application Programming Interface or API and give it a password. Then we go down to the RMCM subsystem. We can go ahead and add the publisher and subscriber here as well. And this is going to be the user that's going to control all of the phones. So we'll have our initial agents, and then this is the device that can, when you're after the call set up or tears down, what actually controls the phone itself. Now, unlike the JTAPI that does the device association automatically, for the user that is created here, we're going to need to manually add the device associations for it to work properly. So we can give it RMagent, for example, and give it a password. All right, we can just give this the max with the default codec of G711, choose next, and we'll choose our IVR language, and in my case it's going to be English US. And I should mention, you can actually go back into the service parameters later to change that, because we'll look at a few of those options. And here we can choose who we want to be as an administrator. In this case, I'm going to say the UCCX is going to be our administrator, and we'll click Finish. Now at this point, everything's all set up, so the server is going to reboot. This will take a little bit, so I'm going to pause the video, and while that's rebooting, I'm going to create the DX650 endpoint in Call Manager so that I can use that to dial into the agents that we set up. So see you guys in just a second. All right, welcome back. And so now that you can see that it is booted up and we have our licenses installed, and while that was doing that, I just went in and set up my DX650 connected to the Freelab VPN, and you can see it's got a 192.168.200 address. So that's essentially the subnet you get when you're on the VPN, and then you have access to the 201 and 202 networks. So I've got that set up. Now, before we configure this, actually, we can go over to our end users, application users, and verify. So here's our JTAPI user that was created, and has standard CTI enabled, doesn't currently have any devices associated with it, and then we have our RMagent. And let's see, this one, it does have supporting conferences and transfers, but we'll also need to add, actually we say begins with CTI, or sorry, contains CTI. We'll also want to add the allow control of phone supporting rollover mode for like the 9971s, and I'm not sure on the new ones. I saw a matrix, I'll post it in the link, that shows the compatible phones, but we can just add that and save. So we should be good to go there. And again, the JTAPI is going to control the media ports and the route trigger points, and then the RMagent is going to control the actual phones. So let's go back over to our remote desktop session here. And under wizards, just an example, if you go over like RMCM wizard description of steps, this is going to break down all the different steps that you can go. You can also use the configuration guide. But for these examples, we're just going to create a few basic IVRs to answer calls, have agents available to send them to, and things like that. So under the Cisco telephony, under provider, you're going to see our publisher, subscriber, JTAPI. And if we go to our call control group, we can go ahead and create one. And these are going to be all of our CTI ports. So we can just call it CTI ports, and how many? We can say, we'll say 5. Can be for inbound. The device name prefix can be whatever you want, so we can just call it the UCCX port, and the starting directory number for the actual agents, and we'll say 5001 because we'll have our application trigger be 5000. And in this case, we didn't use any regions, not set up for multi-site, so we're just using the default device pool. And if you want to, you can add some other parameters here. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary here, so we can just go ahead and add. So you can see it says in progress, it's creating these port groups. And actually at this point, if we go back to our call manager and go back to our phones, we can now see that we have these CTI ports for the media path already set up and registered. Now if we go back to RMCM resources, you can see there are none here. And why is that? Well, if we go back to our CUCM here, even though we had these ports created, If we go to the individual users, and actually, before I forget, if you go to Application JTAP User, you can see that automatically the control devices are already associated. So then on the end users, so we have YouTube user A, B, C, D. So if we click on YouTube user A and scroll down where we looked earlier, there wasn't that IPCC extension available, but now that it is, we can give it an extension and hit save. And we'll do these for all the users that we want to be part of the UCCX. So let's see, we want A, B, and C. So we'll just go down and add these extension here to A, B, and C. Save that. All right, now if we go back to our remote desktop here and refresh this, go to our resources. Now you can see we have these 3 users available as a resource. So now we can go over to our resource groups to create a new group. And just call this Freelab group. And now if we go over to Skillz, we can create a new skill. And we can just call this Freelab Skillz. And actually that's not very specific. Let's say we can call them voice skills and data skills and to be determined skills. So now if we go back to our resources and we'll click on YouTube user A. Here we can select the resource group. So we have the Freelab group. Now if you wanted to, if you don't need skills-based routing and just wanted a single group, this is all you'd have to do. And then you can assign specific skills that you want for the user. So we'll give YouTube A all the skills and keep the team name default. We'll hit update. And we could do the same for the other users. And also, let's just say, for an example, let's say so by default here, the competency level is 5. So we just add them all on the previous one and it was 5. But let's say if you want data skills 5, we'll say 2BD is 1. Or maybe they don't have any to be determined skills. Take that out, and then voice skills will say 9 for this user. Add that, hit update. So you can change the competency for these if you want. Oh, I missed the group. And we'll do the same for user C. User C is going to have 9 for data and 4 for voice. Add it to the group. All right, so we've got our resources configured. And now we can actually go to our context service queues, or CSQ. This is going to be essentially the scripts for call queuing. So we call this, we'll call it, say, Freelab. Oops. And these are case sensitive, CSQ. Okay, and for the automatic work, so with the different states, so when you first sign in, you're not ready, then you can go ready. If you are receiving a call, it goes into reserved. But then after you take a call, it'll say change the state to talking. Automatic work is an option where, let's say, so then because by default, as soon as that call ends, you're back into a ready state. But the automatic work and wrap-up time is to automatically put you in a work state. So maybe you're finishing up typing, whatever, and there's different reasons for that. So if you enable that just by itself, then you'll stay in that work and not be available to receive any calls until you manually go back into ready. Or you can enable a wrap-up timer, and we can just say this is 15 seconds for this example. But that means they have 15 seconds after the time they receive the call before they'll be automatically placed back into a ready. And if we had any custom prompts, we could do that. I'm just going to use the defaults for now. And here we can choose the resource criteria and if there's any specific skills that are required. So for example, we could add these skills and what the minimum competence is. So if any of the users don't meet the minimum, then they won't be placed into queue. But for example, let me just add this right now for skills based. If we go back in here and instead wanted it to be just based on the group, we can hit next, and then it gives you just the option to say, okay, which resource group, which has those 3 users, and then this list of options, whereas the previous ones were set up to be more specific as far as, let's see, let me update this because that's the one we'll use, but just for an example, if we go back to the skills base and add these in here, just to show you, you can choose the different competencies, but then you also have stuff like skilled by the weight, and you can give different weight values to what's more important, data, voice, things like that, so you can get more granular with how you want your call set up. But in this case, we're just going to use the default group, and it is set for longest available. So whoever's been available the longest. And then also over here on the system parameters, initially we set up that G711 codec. That's here where you can change it. And you also have this option here, let's see, agent state after ring no answer. So what happens if a call is offered to an agent and they don't answer it? Put them back into ready or not ready. And not sure why you would want to put them back in ready, like if they leave their desk or something and just gets caught in a loop. But you have the option to change it if you'd like. And then under applications and prompt management, this is where if we wanted to create our own custom prompts where we can upload them and put them into, you know, whichever directory we want. And you can create them on your own. There's a number of ways to do it. You can use Audacity, which is free. Just make sure it's on the 8000 Hertz 8-bit ULAW or ALAW, whichever or whatever region your call manager is set up for. In this case, we're using ULAW. And alternatively, you could also use, for example, on if we pull up the VM console, VM as in voicemail. Let's see, admin. Another thing you could do is go to any of the user. So like, say, go to YouTube user A, for example. And if you scroll down, you have this option here where you can have the phone call you, so you can place a recording, and then this download option will be available. So it'll record it in the proper format, then you can download it and then upload it back on this page if you want to use your own prompts. But I'm going to use the system default for this example. So we'll go ahead and start our first application. And so we'll say add new. And here you have a few different types. This case we're going to use the Cisco script application. And we can just give it a name like Freelab app. Max number of sessions is going to be based on how many CTI ports did we set up, 5. And here's some of the system scripts defaults, and in this case we're going to use the ICD. And this will, and on the back end, there's a bunch of scripts, and these options here give you some variables to change things. So for example, the CSQ that we created was called what do we call it? Freelab. Oh shoot, can't remember what I called it now. A lot of times it might be easier just to call it like CSQ or something. So let's see, CSQs, freelab.csq. So let me just copy this and add new. Just go script, Freelab app 5, and the script is the ICD. CSQ is, and then in these quotes, we'll put in the actual name. And here's where you could change prompts, use different script prompts. We're just using the system default here. And we'll click on add. Oh, and as you can see here, it says triggers can be added after the application is created. So you can see here now we have a new link we can click on. So if we add the new trigger, we're going to say this particular one is a unified call manager telephony trigger. Choose next. And then the directory number we're going to make for this is 5000. And this is what's going to create our CTI route point. And so all the subsequent agents were the 5001 through 5. And the device name, we can just give it the same that we gave the app name, so the Freelab CSQ. Freelab beta CSQ test. And for the inbound call control group, we're going to select our CTI ports that we created. You can do show more to add additional options. I haven't really played around with these too much. So we'll just hit add. And now at this point, UCCX should be able to handle inbound calls, but there's a few more housekeeping items we need to do. So for example, if we go back over to Call Manager, remember under the application user I should show you that we should now have under device CTI route point. We have one here, device name Freelab CSQ. That's registered, and if we go to the application user, the JTAPI, you can see that that Freelab has already been added to the control devices. However, we need to add the RMagent still doesn't have any devices because, like I said earlier, we have to add these manually. So it has all the permissions which we set up, but we need to go to device association and add the phones that are going to be participating with UCCX. So in this case, we're going to use all 3 IP communicators, so YouTube A, B, and C. We'll say save selected changes. Back to the user, save just to be sure. So now we have these control devices. For those of you that are familiar with the IP phone agents or IPPA, those steps that have worked from like version 3 through 10.5 anyway, don't work on version 11 anymore because now they have the FIPPA or Finesse IP agent, which is very similar when you set up your services, but it's a little bit different. So before we get into that, let's go ahead and configure Finesse to handle these agents. Now, when I first came across Finesse yesterday, because I had everything pre-set up with the Cisco Agent Desktop the old way from version 10 and lower, then I thought it was a different standalone instance. So some of you that have already used it probably knew this, but essentially a couple things. One, it requires DNS. So as you can see with the bookmarks I have, because originally I set this up with no DNS reliance. This one does require DNS reliance. So if you don't know what the DNS name is, I do have pointer records set up. So if you were to open a command prompt, for example, and like here, we're on the UCCX administration. If we type in Finesse lookup 192.168.202.216, this is going to give you the UCCX freelab.local or the fully qualified domain name, because that's what we're going to have to use in this case. So we'll copy this, and it's actually the same URL, so HTTPS, except this time we're going to put in the fully qualified domain name, followed by 8445/ and then cfadmin or Cisco Finesse admin, and I somehow didn't remove the 1 there. Try that again. And then here we can log with the same admin ID. Okay, so now under the IP phone agent settings, this is one of the new things that you don't have to do with the desktop agent, and that is specify user. So if we go to our end users here, UCCX, you can see that it has the CTI permissions, but not the device control profiles, and this is what we're going to need in order for our services to work. So just like we did with the RMagent, we're going to go ahead and add YouTube A, B, and C to controlled devices for this user. See, back to user, just save. And then when we go back to here, we're going to say UCCX and password save. That's successfully saved. Call variables there's a whole bunch of different things and resources you can integrate, which I set up a social miner to work with this, or I'm working on. That's going to be one of the next things to add into it. But for this is just basic call communications. For this, we're going to set the different variables that come in. The desktop layout is an XML format, and the design guide has some different snippets of types of layouts that you can use, modify and update. Then at any time that you update this, you need to restore the default layout, because one of the things you have to do is like change localhost to the actual fully qualified domain name, create phone books, and then the reasons we can, so manage regions codes for not ready. We could say, give it a reason code, and there's some -1230767 and like 50,000 1 through 5 and a few others that are reserved, but I just start with 1, save. So we can add these different reasons. For your sign-out codes, you can add different sign-out codes like end of shift or I quit. To wrap up reasons, decide to go on a power walk but not actual break. Finishing ticket. I mean, you can put whatever you want. Watching YouTube. So that's for different reason codes. Then more XML, custom XML for the displays and workflows. Now, and according to this, we do need to reset the Tomcat services. So if we just take this part off, go back to the HTTPS UCCX, go to administration, and then CCX serviceability. Log in here. And under network services, if we go down here, we have Finesse services and Cisco Finesse Tomcat. So we're going to go ahead and restart this. All right, looks like it's back in service. So we can go back to 8445 admin, sign back in, make sure everything looks all right. All right, so we can see the user has been saved. And now if we actually, let's go back to our UCCX console. There's one thing let's see, if we go to our resources, see, team default. I think what I forgot to do is go to user management. We need to give these let's see. So we got agent, agent, agent. So let's make YouTube a supervisor. And administrator and reporting. How about all that? So update that user. We'll just give reporting to these agents. All right, so now if we go to our call manager to set up for the services, and actually I was logged in call manager over on the on my direct desktop here. So here we can go to device settings, and then we want to do phone services, and we're going to create a new one. So we'll say add new. So for service name it, we can call it FIPPA, and one touch login, and the service URL has to be the fully qualified domain name, so it's going to be uccx.freelab.local on port 8082 /FIPPA/ and then the variable of device name. And we can keep, so this is an XML service, we can keep it at the same. If we just enable it, then you can manually subscribe each individual phone to that resource, or if you choose enterprise subscription, all phones in your cluster will be automatically registered to it. So in this case, I'm just going to say enable because we don't necessarily want all the phones per se. So we'll go ahead and save that. And for our parameters, it's going to be very similar to how it was before. So for example, you have ID, display name ID, call it agent ID. This parameter is required, so save and close. And then on the old one, it was like ext for extension. So in this case, it's actually extension. Parameters required, save and close, and then we have the password. And we will check the parameters password, so it keeps that, save and close. And we'll say update subscriptions, or save. So apparently, let's see, did I log in somewhere else? Let's see, let's go back. Let's see, FIPPA. Well, there's the information there. So it seems like it saved. I'm not sure why I got that message, but that should be all set. Then the other thing is the users have to create their variables themselves. So oh, maybe that's why, because I have this remote desktop and my regular home machine. So let me, I'm going to sign out of my home machine at this point. We'll just work in the remote desktop. So if we change this to CCM User, and we'll start with YouTube A. Oh, another thing I didn't think, because again, this lab can be restaged at different points. There's other configurations we probably should verify. So let's just log in here and make sure that they are set up for end users. So let's see, YouTube A. Yep. So let's see. check our LDAP authentication. Or let's actually do a perform full sync, make sure LDAP is working. So a directory, find. All right, perform full sync now. Okay, so login failure. Oh. Okay, so I know what happened. The admin password on the 2012 server changed. So I think there's just what did it change to? So let me save this. Update successful. All right, so let's go to authentication. And do the same thing here. Save that. Now that is that's something that shouldn't happen. I was going to change the password back because I didn't have it set to password never expires, and I meant to change it back and I forgot to do that. So now let's try logging in. Don't have the private privileges. Let's check it again. Okay, YouTube A. Has everything. Let's see if it's for all users. Oops. So YouTube B. So YouTube C got in. I wonder if those other accounts got locked trying to log in. Let me pause the video real quick and check the 2012 server. All right, so I just went and unlocked user A and B and D because I think my the jabber wasn't working on my DX650, and I'll bet you that's why. So let's see. So let's go back to the user and we'll say YouTube A. There we go. So that's, I guess, another cool thing about doing real-time stuff on the fly like this is because I've never had that happen before. So now I know what you get when that happens. So let's go over to, or actually, before we do this, we actually have to assign it to the individual phones because we didn't enable it globally. So if we go back to here, and so we're on, we are on YouTube user A. So let's go to, I was going to say phone services. I'm not sure why this keeps happening, but let's see. Well, maybe the time it took it or just expired. All right, so device settings, phone services, make sure this is on there. Got the one touch login with our, so all good there. So now let's go to our devices. So we had the IP communicator for YouTube A, and we'll go to subscribe services, and we are going to choose FIPPA. Next. we can specify this for the user, but the user can also provide it themselves. So in this case, the extension is 2001, and ID is YouTube user A. Subscribe. And close that, and then we'll do the same for the other devices. And for YouTube user B, I won't fill it in, and just to show you how they can do it. So I'll subscribe it like that. And same for YouTube user C. This one I will put the extension in. Okay, so now I might have to sign out and back in, or these sessions are conflicting with each other. Let me get out of this one and see if we can reload this page, and we'll say YouTube A. Log in, go to settings. Now services, we have the HIPAA or FIPPA, and here you can specify, so you got the ID, extension, and put in the password. Guess we need to clean the cookies on this machine. We'll log in as YouTube B. Again, settings, and this one we didn't specify, so it's completely blank. So here for the ID, YouTube user B, extension 2001. And password, and save. And YouTube user C should be all set now as well. All right, so let's, since we're already on YouTube user B, let's hit our services button. Incorrect ID or password. All right. Oh. I've been making this through the course throughout the day. It's YouTube B. You guys probably caught that. All right, so that's not working. So let's see if we go to our, we'll sign out of here. Let's go to our desktop, our agent desktop. So just add desktop there and YouTube B. Oops. And Freelab sign in. And by the way, this is the new agent desktop. There is a agent interface and a administrator interface. In this case, we're in the agent. And here's where we can set our status, ready for incoming calls. And these are the not readies that we had configured. Look at statistics. And let's, I'm going to open another remote desktop for YouTube A. So we can get that signed in. And let's see if, okay, so this has the same problem. Oh, okay. Guys, I know it's because the letters I'm doing DD instead of 3.3 for Freelab. So it'd probably be easier just to fix this in the user portal. So because, like I say, even if you configure this through the administrative portal, the user can change it themselves whenever they want. So change this to CCM User YouTube A. And for IP communicator settings, see services here. See right here. It's a long day. What can I say? YouTube A 2001, and then I'll put the password here just to make sure it's in there correctly. So we'll sign out. And YouTube B. For YouTube C, well, I guess we still have to change that in here. But I was going to show you what I was doing wrong with the password. So YouTube B and password. And then finally for YouTube user C. Okay, so those are all updated now. But what I was going to say is, like for, see now YouTube user A is logged in as not ready. So let me sign out real quick. And here's your options, end of shift or I quit. But where the problem was is if I said YouTube A, because I'm typing this, right? With the password of FR and then the 3s, I'd have to tab over, so make sure it's 3 lab exclamation point extension 2001. Now I should be able to sign in as normal. So what I was doing is I was typing in the FR33 real quick, which was ended up being DD instead. So here's the YouTube user A signed in, and actually we'll do this part with YouTube user C because since YouTube user A is an administrator, we'll get to see the features in Finesse. So we'll go to our UCCX console and change this to 8445 desktop, username YouTube A, Freelab, and extension 2001. All right, so no teams assigned. That's one thing on the to-do list. So let's go to UCCX console. And under teams, we've got our default team here. Alright, so primary supervisor is YouTube user A, and we got resources A through C and using the Freelab service queue. So let's save that. Now, sign back in. Oops. So now our display should be a little different. We should be able to see the status of the other agents. Okay, so we've got not ready. Well, and the supervisor doesn't necessarily have to take the call. So I'm going to open the other remote desktop, which I haven't set up yet. So that's 103, and we'll say Freelab 3. Allow me to save credentials, connect, or all right, good. Just want to make sure that was still low, so connect. And don't ask to verify, yes. And now with this one, we can use the desktop agent here, or we can use the regular service. Now, YouTube user C is logged in, and we'll change the status to ready and do the same thing for, let's see, where's my other remote desktop? 2002, so this is, put this user B into ready. All right. So first thing, let's let me see if the speaker works. Okay, it does. You should be able to hear that. So if I dial 5000.
Thank you for calling.
So now it is ringing YouTube user C, so the status changed to reserved. And here's the call coming in. Now if the user doesn't answer this, it puts the call back into not ready, and now you can see it's ringing here. Now I can answer here from the GUI. And so now you can see that we have an active call. Sort of. Yeah, something definitely went haywire. But since that was answered, now you can see the 15 seconds that it was in wrap up and then ready. So let's let me try this again. So 5000.
Thank you for calling.
Alright, so we have that answered, status changed to talking. And then over here we're gonna change to ready. Oh, this is the one that messed up, it looks like. Let's see, ready. Sorry, I'm gonna get my, this is one we want. I switched to ready when I was on the call. I've getting the remote desktops confused. So let's make it easier. I'm gonna make the test call here from my DX650. So let me unlock it here, and I will also put YouTube user A, the supervisor, into ready status. Alright, so I'm gonna dial 5000. I'll turn this up so you can hear it. Well, I guess it's a bad idea being able to hear both at the same time. Alright, so now this one's going to roll over. So we'll answer this. Oh, you can actually hear me. I'm going to mute my phone so it doesn't come through here. Now, me as the supervisor, I can also go over here and change the status of the other teammates. So this still shows talking. Now let's say if nobody's available. So let me go not ready here. I'll go not ready here. And we'll disconnect the call. And see, it's still in wrap up, and after 15 seconds, it will change like that. So we're going to make this one not ready, and then on here, we're going to switch to not ready, don't want to work. Oh, YouTube C. Got to change that to, oh, I didn't select the reason. I'll say I'm tired. So we got someone that doesn't want to work, someone who's too tired, and YouTube B is just not ready. So now if I dial 5000, let's see, I'm not hearing. Let me try with here, see if we still have audio.
Thank you for calling. All of our representatives are assisting other callers at this time. Your call is very important to us. Please stay on the line and your call will be handled in the order it was received.
Alright, so my wireless VPN on the DX650 is apparently getting one-way audio right now because I only hear, or I don't hear the announcement play, but I do through here. So again, this is a beta lab. But as you can see, you'll pretty much sit here, wait, and then every 30 seconds or so you'll hear the all agents are still busy, as you would expect.
All of our representatives are assisting other callers at this time. Your call is very important to us. Please stay on the line and your call will be handled in the order it was received.
Alright, and then I could go to ready. Now the call is coming through. So, this was just a quick demonstration based on the Freelab I provided for you guys. Again, if you're following along, you can do that, but if you don't have access to any of this stuff, then you can certainly use this. One other thing I was just going to show too, which I forgot, because I have both of these users signed in. Let me turn off the, see, sign out, I quit. Alright, that's probably what messed it up the first time too, is because I was signed into both the phone and through the web. Or maybe not. Let's see. Like I say, this is my first time using it as of yesterday. So it's pretty cool because like I say, I got social media or social miner, so that like with the VCSC Expressway and the Guest Jabber web interface, there's a built-in chat, which then can also integrate directly with this. So that's one of the next things I'm going to be playing around with when I get some time. But yeah, so you can see the difference between the supervisor view and the agent view. So as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.